What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through tonight's 5-game slate in the association. 5 games all starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. So it will be a little bit like a football slate in that regards. Also, a normal, manageable slate size on a Monday. So that's nice. Mike, I'm sure you enjoyed that for matchups today. How are you doing?
Yeah, busy day yesterday, man. But yeah, it was tough. It's always tough writing matchups when there's a lot of games on all day. So I was trying to write and watch and sweat and watch. It's a lot of juggling. So I was actually like really worn down yesterday. But feeling refreshed today. Yeah, I feel pretty good. So yeah, we had a great props weekend too. So that helps make things feel a little bit better too.
Yeah, understandable. The NBA schedule has been unrelenting early on as they just try to cram games in while nobody notices them except the diehards until Christmas, and then people start hopping on when football kind of winds down. And yeah, it's been a difficult schedule to deal with so far. We're still going to have more chaotic, large game slates coming forward, but we've got the in-season tournament starting tomorrow, so it'll bring a new flavor as well. Let's get through these games. Let's start with Brooklyn and New Orleans. That's first on the NBA injury report. On the Brooklyn side, no Bojan Bogdanovic, Day'Ron Sharpe, Trendon Watford, Dariq Whitehead, or Jalen Martin. No other injuries to report here, although notable last game, didn't see Noah Clowney. So what are your expectations on what we see from the Nets tonight?
Yeah, 2 games ago on the Clowney
games ago,
thing.
sorry.
Yeah. So let's talk through this because the last game they played, Ben Simmons didn't play in the back end of the back-to-back. They played Boston, went to overtime, and then played a thrilling, incredible game. What a win for the Cavs. We'll talk more about the Nets in a second, but let's talk about the injuries first. This is the injury show after all. Yeah, so Ben will be back, and then we saw when Ben did play in the Boston game, came off the bench. We were waiting for it. We were talking about it all season. When are they going to do it? When they're going to do it? They finally did it. I'd be very shocked if they change that. So the starting lineup should be the same. And then perhaps most notably in the last game was Nicholas Claxton, who we took an under on. Whoops. He goes out there, plays 32 minutes on a back end of a back-to-back after being managed all year. So is he full now? I don't know. He's been great. The last 2 weeks of the season, the Nets are 11th in defense. When they played the Celtics, when they played the Cavs, they've had a pretty tough schedule, and they're still 11th. They've been playing some pretty good basketball. And then, as you noted, 2 games ago, when Ben Simmons did play off the bench for the first time, they did not play Noah Clowney. Didn't get an answer from Fernandez on this. He was ill. He did hurt his hip, cost him a game. Was ill, cost him another game. We've talked about this a lot this year. The illnesses can have an effect even though you're unavailable, and they are kind of crunched anyways. So I thought they just okay, hey, let's sit him out one more, even though he's available, and then he'll be out there next time. So it gets a little bit of a squeeze. So if they bring Noah Clowney back, does that cut into Keon Johnson? Because they've been playing Ben Simmons as a quote-unquote point guard or as a quote-unquote center based on substitution patterns behind Nick Claxton. So it gets a bit of a squeeze here. Does Ben get squeezed a little bit? I kind of think he does. He has played pretty poorly here. So, but yeah, we know the starting lineup. We know Ben's in there. We know Zaire Williams is in there. And then it's a little shaky. Like Jalen Wilson's minutes were cut down. He's a little bit on the fence after that 32-minute game earlier this year. So it's a bit of a squeeze. And this team's good, man. They're playing really good basketball right now. But yeah, we'll be watching to see. We're hoping Noah Clowney plays. We took a bet under overall. But yeah, we'll be watching the second unit.
But to sum it up, basically, we think it's still likely a 10-man rotation, right? We don't think it's extending to 11, or we think it's extending to 11, but it just gets kind of cut up between a couple of guys that get like short stint opportunities to prove themselves.
Yeah, you would think that last spot, if it's 10, it's between Keon Johnson and it's between one of 3: Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, and Noah Clowney at this point. Zaire Williams has played himself into an every night role. I'd be pretty surprised if he's kind of included in that group. So he's firmly in there. But yeah, it's kind of just one of those, 2 of those last 3 in there.
Okay, let's move to the New Orleans side of things. New Orleans out Jordan Hawkins, Herb Jones, Carlo Makovich, CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson. Available Trey Murphy. So we'll have Trey Murphy's initial return. This lines up with the timeline expectation from the hamstring injury he suffered in the preseason. What are your notes and expectations on how much Trey Murphy we see tonight?
Yeah, so this is, again, hamstring thing. Suffered it over a month ago. So he's been ramping up. He's been jogging for like 3-4 weeks now. Been cleared for full basketball activities. All that good stuff's been trending the right direction for sure. So looking back, returning from meniscus surgery last year, he played 22 minutes in his return. little bit more of a serious. He had surgery for that, so that's a pretty significant injury. Or is it just a hammy pull? Hammy pulls, we talked about. If you watch the show, you know hammy pulls are managed every single time. So he's not playing 30. He's probably not playing 20. I think, to me, if you made me pick a scenario out of a hat, or not out of a hat, like I'd actually pick one, I think the thing that makes the most sense to me would be stardom. I'll talk about why in a second. 6 minutes on, 6 minutes off, 6 minutes on, 6 minutes off, and then kind of go that way, give him to 24. 24 is a pretty reasonable hamstring. You're back. Let's go. You've been ramping up for a while here. No setbacks, all that good stuff. So that's my expectation. Why start? Look at the starting lineup. What do they need in the worst way? Shooting. So I think Trey starts, and then as expected, we have him at 23. People could decide, but I think they're shooting for 24 here. Pretty common return for a hamstring injury, and again, not a severe one. He just had like a grade 2, month off kind of a hammy. So that's my thought. But then let's talk Zion here. Obviously, you guys watching this, saw the news. He's out for a hamstring injury, and this is his hamstring. So I actually misspoke last week. Earlier that weekend before last weekend was his other hamstring. So he hurt both hamstrings in the last week, and both his hamstrings are hurt really bad. We saw last year his hamstring was his left one, and then 2 years ago was his right one, the one where they ended the season, that one. So this is the more recent one. This is the one where he had last year. This is just a disaster. So they didn't put a timetable on him, which makes sense. Like, why would you set an expectation for Zion given what we've seen? So he's out multiple weeks here, I would say. I don't know if it's like a month or what. It doesn't sound serious. He played through it, right? Like, I tweeted this out. He's coming off a hamstring injury. He went to the locker room in the first half. He comes back out and he plays 19 and a half minutes in the second half and kills our under. Like, I could not believe it. So he's out. Again, I think they're going to start. Brandon Boston's been great. So I'm thinking Jose Alvarado, Brandon Boston, Brandon Ingram, and then I think Trey Murphy starts. I'm curious to your thoughts there. And then the guys who are still stable to me, I mean, Jalen Noel's probably playing behind Jose Alvarado. We'll see. He's a non-guaranteed contract, so you would think he's around until CJ and Herb get back. And then Javonte Green's pretty firm to me. I think Reeves has earned a minute there, so he's kind of in. But yeah, curious your thoughts on, do you think Trey starts today?
I don't know. I think it depends on what the limit is. I think if the limit is like 20 at the high end, I think he's coming off the bench. I think if the limit's like 24, 25 at the high end, I think he probably starts. I think it just really depends on the minutes limit and how they want to manage things. And I think it's also entirely possible and reasonable that the team could have gone in with an expectation of a minutes limit of around 24, but they've seen what has happened to every player on their team so far and has said, like, maybe we're going to dial that back a little bit and we're going to slow build this a little bit more because we can't afford to keep losing people. Like, it would be hard not to have some sort of emotion impacting your decision on his path when everybody else has gotten hurt. And there's a question mark in the league around all these soft tissue injuries. And if it's the shortened preseason and players not even the shortened preseason, just players not participating in full preseason action in terms of getting up to speed. And so a lot of times in preseason action, when guys get up to speed, you see them start in the like 20 range. So I don't know. Ultimately, I think it comes down to where the minutes limitation is. I think it's interesting that this roster that we spent like kind of all off season talking about, what are they going to do in terms of like size? What are they going to do in terms of size? Now, all of a sudden, because they've cobbled up all these different like bigs or small bigs together to try to like figure out how to address that, the roster is super lopsided with the injuries, where it's like all like pseudo 4s and 5s on the roster, and then you have no guard depth now. So it's pretty crazy how this season has gone for New Orleans to start, but agree with you that Jalen Noel is probably in. Antonio Reeves has probably earned a longer look. The question mark is ultimately like how the minutes get split between Misi, Tice, and Jemison at the center spot. And then Jeremiah Robinson Earl and Javonte Green are certainly going to be a little bit more vulnerable. Like one of those two guys and Reeves are probably vulnerable with the return, or I guess Kane is probably the most vulnerable. But those other guys are also vulnerable with the return of Trey Murphy, maybe not immediately, but kind of down the road. So yeah. Okay.
Yep. Just one more point if I can. I think Antonio Reeves jumped Kane at this point. And then as you mentioned, they're just getting hit so hard in the ball handling, the on-ball defense department. But at least now they get Trey Murphy for some shooting. That was already getting pretty thin without Hawkins.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Trey Murphy, one of our favorite players to watch in the league. So glad that he's back, and also new podcaster, Young Man in the Three. Check it out. Some of the stuff that they're doing with JJ Redick's old podcast platform. I'm interested in capturing because I love watching players interview other players and stuff. All right, Cleveland and Chicago. On the Cleveland side, no Amani Bates, no Max Strus, no JT Thor, no Luke Travers. So they're fairly healthy here. Nothing really on the injury report that hasn't been there most of the season. What are your notes here on the Cavs?
Yeah, so let's talk about this rotation, and let's start with what happened with Jared Allen. Played horribly, missed easy stuff, was late on defense, got run off the court. After the game, Kenny Atkinson said that them playing so fast, the Nets, was why they cut Allen out. Again, obviously, if Allen's playing well, it's a bit of a moot point. But we had a Karras under in this game, and we were not happy with it. On a back-to-back, he goes out there and plays 31 minutes because after the game, Kenny Atkinson said that they wanted to put Karras at the 4 to keep up with the Nets' speed there as well. So they're playing a fast team today in the Bulls. We'll see if that holds up. That said, if Allen's playing like Jared Allen does, then I think Allen's pretty safe. We've already taken a Karras under. And then the other interesting thing from Kenny Atkinson, and I'll just say, for the presser psychos like me, Kenny Atkinson's pressers, Kenny and JJ Redick as new coaches, I love their pressers so much. Just the detail and the explanation on why they did it. Because they ran this wild little Garland, Merrill, Ty Jerome, Dean Wade, George Niang lineup. And he was like, oh, yeah, we were he wanted to, Evan Mobley looked exhausted. He was like, I got to get Evan Mobley out. Let's run the small ball lineup, give Evan Mobley a blow. And he even said his coaches told him, don't do it. And he goes out there, and it was great. It was a plus lineup playing without I said, I didn't say Mobley. I didn't say Jared Allen. I didn't say Donovan Mitchell. And this good lineup in the clutch comes out really big. So, mass. I mean, the 15-1. Some people got longer ones on Kenny, but shout out to him. Everyone's back. Dean Wade's over his illness, all that good stuff. But I'm still expecting Okoro to still start. We'll see, but certainly far from a lock. We'll see if they go back to Dean Wade now that Okoro, the magic pixie dust is worn off a little bit. Yeah,
still makes sense. I think the things that core. I think it should be a little bit matchup based, right? Like, not that Dean Wade can't handle smaller. I mean, Zach LaVine's still 6'4", 6'5", but guard scorers. But I think Okoro is better suited for that, and then I think Okoro is better in transition than Dean Wade. So for this matchup specifically, that the game's going to play in transition so much, but also should note the Bulls have been wearing down opponents in the second half. This depth that Cleveland has and the ability to play fast, that they've been playing fast and trust Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill and these guys who've been playing really well to start the season. Probably less likely to happen here to the Cavs as it's happened to some other teams. And the Cavs pretty fresh here after a day off as well. Okay, Chicago side. Zach LaVine is probable with the right adductor strain, played through that injury last time out. Jalen Smith was downgraded to questionable with illness. We know that Jalen Smith questionable tags are always particularly questionable, and sometimes you don't even find out until the game started. Oftentimes, you don't even find out until the game started. He's unavailable to go. In tandem with that questionable tag, Adama Sanogo got upgraded from out to questionable as a G League two-way. So pretty telling that it seems like we're not going to get Jalen Smith available tonight. Adama Sanogo, the backup center in that regard. And Lonzo Ball is still out with that right wrist sprain. What are your notes here on the Bulls?
Yeah, his questionable tags are questionable, and his available tags are questionable on Jalen Smith. So with you, we can have no confidence here. Obviously, if he's out, they'll have Sanogo, but that would add a little bit more minute stealing in a terrible matchup for Vooch. Although, should note the Cavs' interior defense has been a little bit worse, bit of a product of the pace that they're playing at. Let's start with LaVine. Returned, looked great. After the game, Billy Donovan talked about how he looked 100%. He said that he was only off for a brief amount of time. The conditioning was totally fine. So. LaVine's back. If the game's close, probably playing mid to upper 30s. They obviously need him. We saw him play a ton off the injury, where he's been able to go full since June. We talked about this a pretty good bit. So LaVine's back, 100%. No concerns on minutes there. Matchup's really weird. Chris and I were doing minutes. We're like, man, we want to take Josh Giddey down real, really bad. We didn't, but this matchup really, really sucks for him. We'll see what happens there. And then Matas Buzelis had an early shot to get in there. We saw him get iced pre-LaVine, and then is starting to get iced again. It looks like, so not great for Matas Buzelis. Pretty tight behind that. Iota Suma has been playing a pretty bit, and also should note too, the early third quarter rage timeout from Billy Donovan. Goes out there, pulls Kobe, pulls Giddey against this team with firepower at the wazoo. Could be a shorter leash there. We saw Javon Carter, who's guarded Trae Young in this game pretty well in the past. They gave him a shot here. So we'll see if anything changes there. Another player could compete for backup minutes.
Yeah, I think that's the note that's most important for this game potentially, is that obviously a backcourt with the firepower of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and the Bulls with, no kind of on-ball defense that's really threatening to those types of players. And we saw in the same spot Billy Donovan lose it and go right to Javon Carter and dust him off. I mean, we haven't seen Javon Carter much at all this year, and it was just like, this is the whole reason you're on this roster. Go get him. And Javon was good in the time that he played defensively. He didn't make any shots or anything. He put up a Tony Snell-esque box score, but you can see the +10 there. And Giddey is definitely the guy that's most vulnerable there. But Kobe also was really singled out in terms of his defense. Kobe did end up closing. Thankfully, got us there on an assist over that we took. But yeah, Matas, the minutes were real bad, just really, really bad. He doesn't look like. He just doesn't look comfortable out there. He looks confident when he has the ball, but he doesn't look comfortable in terms of knowing where he's supposed to be. And that's a problem. So I think, Billy's been pretty clear on like Matas needing to earn these minutes, and he has gotten some opportunities and he's not earned them at this point.
Well, I got bad news, Dink. Nets just updated their injury report. Dorian Finney-Smith now questionable. Not good.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Blunders. That's really annoying.
That's frustrating. Okay. Clippers and OKC. On the Clippers side of things, Kawhi Leonard, PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba, Cam Christie, and Trenton Flowers are all out. So same injuries that we've been dealing with to this point in the season for the Clippers. What notes do you have on LAC tonight?
Yeah, not much on this side. I'm a little tilted on the DFS injury tag. Excuse me. So, Derek Jones Jr. insta 3 fouls that got his minutes cut down, and then he played a little bit more in the second half, so he's fine. Don't worry about that little minutes count there. Norm's just been norming, man. The guy just absolutely scores 20 every game. Been awesome. Don't think he's so secure for mid-30s minutes now. And then other than that, the other interesting note here was Kevin Porter Jr., who picked up a little bit more run in this game, partly because of that Derek Jones Jr. foul trouble. They had 8 minutes of overlap with James Harden. It's been trending, call it about 5, so it's up a little bit. And then after the game, some pretty glowing comments from Ty Lue saying that they want to run him on ball more and even run him. And they did that in this game. They ran Harden off the ball next to KPJ in a little bit in this game. So he's coming a little bit for minutes here. Arguably his best game of the year, but hey, look who we played. The Raptors have like horrendous, up tempo kind of a game where KPJ really thrives. There's that, and then there's also the matchup stuff that's important here. There was a comment from Ty Lue saying, "Hey, Kai Jones' minutes are going to go away in certain matchups." Like I was doing the minutes, like alarm bells. Kai Jones, GOAT life, probably not playing today. So I think Kai Jones isn't in the rotation today because the Thunder will go small. Again, we'll get to that. So that could push up the minutes for push up the minutes a little bit for Derek Jones, Amir Coffey, Chris Dunn, mentioned KPJ. I think this game will go a little bit smaller. On the other hand, Zoo, we'll talk about the Thunder again in a second. They're going to go really small. This guy leads the NBA in paint touches. They are like we saw the last time that this team, the Thunder played this game. The OKC GSW game went so small. Zoo's too valuable to do that. So I'm very curious to see how that kind of goes with Zoo. Massive ceiling and like a really big spot.
In full agreement with you there that many situations for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about the risk of centers being played off the court. The difference in this specific instance, as it would be with any kind of offensive hub of a team, is just simply too valuable. And if you do that, you're playing right into the hands of OKC, who's just going to lock you up on the perimeter. So they need to be able to try to take advantage of Zoo's size the best that they can for offensive rebounding, for easy layups and whatnot. It will be difficult because the Thunder are just going to swarm and descend and swarm and make him pass and get rid of the ball. They're going to front. They're going to do a lot of different things to try to make life hell on Zubats down low. He's just going to be in a sea of bodies. It's going to be like Like if you have a bunch of like nephews and nieces and you like are the one adult playing with them and you've got like 7 of them hanging all over you, that's what's going to feel like for Zoo. Like most of this game, he's just going to have like gnats at his ankles all day long, with the Thunder swarming in on him. But I don't think his minutes are going to go anywhere because I just think they need to create the offense. OKC side of things, they have not filed yet. They're on the second of the back-to-back. We do know Chet Holmgren is going to miss some significant time. They're still without Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams, so they're down a number of bodies at the center position. They overcame this in a matchup with Golden State by just going very small. That is something they are very comfortable doing. It is something that in a matchup against Golden State is very comfortable to do. It will be less comfortable this time out because of Zubats. What are your thoughts on how OKC opens up tonight?
Yeah, just some background on Chet. Iliac wing fracture, so he's out 8 to 10 weeks. He's going to probably be pretty immobile for this. So, yeah, he'll probably ramp up. But at least it's not like a joint, right? Like if it was like hip joint, then you're like, oh no, he's out for the year. So he'll probably be back for like the playoff run. I think an optimistic, even like a fair expectations, like 8 to 10 weeks. You're talking like turn of the calendar. So, like, I think optimistic or even like a fair expectations, like near All-Star break, which is great. You know, this team's still. Yeah. I'm curious on your thoughts, like where this comes in. Should I mention Isaiah Hartenstein? We have him around Thanksgiving, so you've got about 2 weeks of weathering the storm here. And should also note, Kenrich Williams has been doing a lot of on-court stuff. They sent him down to G League for rehab since the 30th of last month. So we're almost on 2 weeks of rehab. So I don't think they filed yet. Maybe we find out. I think Kenrich is close, which is huge. They need Kenrich here really bad because I think they start Alex Caruso at the center spot. We've seen him guard centers even before the OKC time. We've seen him guard centers. Obviously, they're going to use J-Dub in that spot. They may have to go J-Dub here because Zubats is that much bigger than most like center. He's just a load of a man. Yeah. So expecting him to start, I think they would kind of rather have a little bit more length here. So I think they're going to probably keep Aaron Wiggins just to add a little bit more size on the outside. So I'm expecting the starting lineup for now. It could still be case and it could be wrong. They did start Aaron Wiggins the last time they played the Clippers. So I think it's going to be SGA, Aaron Wiggins, Dort, J-Dub, and then Alex Caruso in there. The two guys who are going to benefit the most, AJ Mitchell, who's been better than AD Mitchell on the Colts and for the football fans. He's been great. And then the other guy who's going to step up is Dylan Jones, kind of a stocky wing, adds a little bit of size, can guard forwards as well. So those guys will step up. I didn't mention Usman Jang yet. I don't know if his minutes go up that much. He'll probably be in the rotation every night, but they're pretty comfortable playing this like multiple wing lineup here. And Jang just hasn't been very good. And then obviously Isaiah Joe and Kaysen are still going to be in there. But yeah, it's going to be weird basketball, which, you know, Mark Daigneault, man, big challenge ahead here. But if there's anybody who's going to embrace it and is willing to think different, you know, as we know from him starting a different shooting guard every night, it's Mark Daigneault.
Yeah, I think there's a small chance. I agree with you that I think most likely Caruso is starting. I think there's a small chance that Jang does get his minutes upped in these situations against very large human beings at center. Because I think what they're going to do is I think they're going to try to, as best they can, front with length and then help with hands, quick hands. Help with quick hands is Caruso. So you have Caruso kind of off ball, and then you have him crash down on whenever there's an entry pass made. Is essentially what you do. And with the screen roll game of the Clippers being so heavily right, whoever the primary man is just going to get screened anyway. So then it's going to be a crash down situation. And I think they're going to crash down and help a lot. So I think Caruso is going to start, but not on Zubats, because I think they're going to view him as the guy to have like quick hands and try to disrupt passing lanes, try to disrupt Zubats on the catch, all those different things, instead of trying to be the person to like front and compete with Zubats. I don't think they want the wear and tear on the body there with Caruso either. So J-Dub makes sense potentially, which would bring in some maybe foul risk on J-Dub in a way that's a little bit different as well. But I think in other situations, you might even see Dort take that role, but not against Harden. Dort's going to take the Harden role for sure. So it'll be interesting because Daigneault will play around with this stuff. But the thing that I promise you're going to see when you're watching these OKC games is you're going to see heavy help and crashing down and making other teams beat you with 3-point shooting, and especially a team like the Clippers. It's like Derrick Jones, Terrence Mann. Like we'll see if you guys can connect from three. Essentially, I think OKC is going to make you test that way.
And then just quickly, how do you, with Hartenstein again a couple weeks away, do you still view them as like the best team in the West, right? Even with Chet out for a bit. So
for these 2 weeks, no.
Right.
2 weeks, like I'll I'll take some other teams ahead of them. I'd take Golden State ahead of them right now for these 2 weeks. But, long term, I still think they're most likely to finish at the top of the Western Conference. And they have just so many, like our Slack chat was debating this morning, like, do they just go out and, make a play for a Time Lord for Robert Williams from Portland, right? Who is the third string center on Portland. Sam Presti in Oklahoma City can do all that stuff. They can go and do that stuff really easily and not cost them a bunch. So they've got a lot of ways to fix this if they feel the need to. And they're a really smart organization, smart front office. So I would still be betting on them to be the number 1 seed in the West when all the chips are down.
Yeah, just make it. If they could, their schedule's pretty tough coming up. If they could go like 500 to when Hartenstein comes back, I would honestly still pick them to be number. Like the Hartenstein pickup. If they didn't sign Hartenstein, like okay, then we'd be like freaking out. But I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and Hartenstein's going to be an incredible role when he returns as well. Like just massive role. Okay.
I mentioned too, Jalen Williams is still out for a bit. He had an aggravation on his hammy, so don't expect him back for about another month.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Sacramento and San Antonio. We'll start on the San Antonio side because Sacramento is on the back end of a back-to-back, and they have not filed yet either. Mm-hmm. On the San Antonio side, Malachi Branham is questionable with a right ankle sprain here. Trey Jones remains out, as do some of the G Leaguers and Jeremy Sohan. Branham's ankle sprain injury coincided with Stephen Castle getting moved in the starting lineup, that then coincided with Devin Vassell's return. So it seems like they have enough depth to take their time with Malachi Branham. The ankle sprain didn't look that great. Castle was great in this game against Utah, and Devin Vassell was surprisingly efficient after a little bit of a rusty start in the first half. He really got the shot going in the second half, ended up getting up to 22 minutes. What are your expectations for Branham tonight, and what are your expectations on what this ramp up looks like for Devin Vassell?
Yeah, Branham was a pretty legit ankle injury. I heard it 2 games ago and was cooking in that game. We had a Castle over, and we kind of got saved by the Branham injury. So probably gonna be game time. Didn't look like terrible, but I don't know. I think he might miss another one here. And then, as you mentioned, the first game Branham missed. The last game, that's when Devin Vassell and Castle moved in the starting lineup for Sohan, just to kind of line that up. Castle for Sohan, and then Branham goes down, and now Devin Vassell comes back. So Devin Vassell comes back, looks awesome, scores 21 points on 13 shots, very comfortable. Jumper was in fuego. Wasn't overly aggressive at getting downhill. He just had his jumper on just on 10. It was just everything was going in. Looked great. And then interesting little quote note. After the game, Devin Vassell's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not even practicing with CP3, this version of Wemby, and these guys, and it's only going to get better." And then Mitch Johnson was like, "Oh no, he's been practicing with the guys." So a little bit of a little he said for that. But yeah, the Spurs have been always hesitant to start guys right away. We've seen when are they starting him? When are they starting him? When are they starting him? So I think they might stick with Champagne, who's played pretty well. But I don't know. I think Vassell, and they want to integrate him. Maybe that was why he said that. I'm on the fence. I think he might start, and it would be, in my opinion, pretty strongly. When Vassell starts, it's going to be at Julian Champagne's expense, not at Stephen Castle's expense. Stephen Castle is replacing Jeremy Sohan. What does Jeremy Sohan do besides crush our best ball stuff we're underweight on? He's an on-ball defender. That's what Stephen Castle is. So I think that role will keep Castle in the starting lineup for the foreseeable future until Sohan's back from his fractured thumb injury. So yeah, keep an eye on Vassell. Blake Wesley's still holding around because, again, him and Castle are their main 2 on-ball defenders. Expect that to stick. And then, Keldon. Keldon's minutes are up. Mitch likes Keldon, as Austin talked about in our Slack, too. And it's quite clear that the minutes have gone up in a big way. Harrison Barnes' revenge game. How much did they put him? How much does Keldon guard in this spot, right? I don't know. Keldon's a pretty iffy defender when they're going to need it for DeMar here. So a little bit of push and pull situation. But yeah, the big question is, does Vassell start? Regardless, he's going to have a minutes limit on him. Expect it to be in the 24 to 26 minute range, I would say. Maybe 28 if they're feeling good. But excited to see about the committee has been disbanded because Devin Vassell is back and playing.
Yeah, for those unaware of the committee, that is an inside reference to one of our previous podcasts on the Man vs. Machine, the ethics committee of Mike forcing us to lower Devin Vassell's games and thus our projection going lower on Devin Vassell, and then taking the position against our projection by hyping up Devin Vassell. So the ethics committee has made their judgment. I was trying to buy time there as we've hit the 2:30 mark, and I keep refreshing the NBA injury report to see if we've gotten the NBA injury report to see if the Kings have filed there on the second night of back-to-back. The only thing we know so far is that Malik Monk has been ruled out for tonight's game. Second night of back-to-back, that was an overtime game in Phoenix last night, so road back-to-back as well. What are your expectations for what we see from Sacramento if they do file at this 2:30 injury report?
Yeah, Monk's out, rolled his ankle last night, and the Wizards actually have some stuff. Kuzma's back, which is not great for us. Yeah, so we can come back to that. Yeah, Monk's out. The two things that stick out here as I pull up the box score was Kevin Huerter was in foul trouble, and he still got massive minutes here. So he'll be starting with a significantly longer leash. That obviously get Keon Ellis more minutes too. I think that we saw Doug McDermott get in there, but I think it was a little bit tied to some foul trouble. I kind of think Jordan McLaughlin sneaks in there. And then obviously Mike Brown, man, he doesn't mess around. He plays these guys heavy minutes, 41 for Fox, again, overtime. They have no options here. So I think they're just going to play these guys a ton. The starting lineup will be the same, obviously. And then more Keon, J-Mac will sneak in there, Trey Lyles. We'll see if they go a little bit bigger with Alex Len to bring him in the mix. Overall, and then Doug may still pick up some parts, but yeah, they're gonna play these guys a ton.
Yeah, we've seen with Mike Brown, he doesn't have a lot of confidence in anybody else. So without Malik Monk, yeah, really hefty minute ceiling here. All right, well we just got news that Fred VanVleet is listed out as well for Houston in this Washington-Houston game. So we can kind of transition to that spot. I'm still waiting on the 2:30 to actually load up on the site, although I know Underdog has their tricks to beat that. But let's
Cameron's back.
Okay.
Called it.
Where do you want to go on the updates on this?
Let's talk Houston first.
Okay. On the Houston, they have filed. No Fred VanVleet tonight. He is out with a left hamstring injury. No Cam Whitmore. He is in the G League. He did not put up 40 in his first G League game. Nate Williams is out as well as a G Leaguer. And then Steven Adams is questionable here with Jock Landale out with the left shoulder strain. So no Fred VanVleet. What does that mean for the Rockets tonight?
It means a lot. The first thing it means is Ahmed Thompson starting. I feel very strongly there. So, my God, man. Ahmed Thompson against the Wizards. 80% ownership in DFS is probably not enough. So yeah, he'll start. He'll play a ton, which probably going to guard Jordan Poole too, which is not good for Poole scoring. But hey, maybe pass it a few times, Jordan, please. But yeah, so that'll be the starting lineup. Reed Shepard's minutes will come up significantly, and then also let me check one more thing. They still have Cam Whitmore on assignment, so that's probably going to add Aaron Holiday in the rotation. So he'll be in the mix, probably pick up some run. He'll play kind of shooting guard-ish next to Reed Shepard. His minutes are probably going to touch close to 20 here. Then Jalen Green's going to have a big on-ball role. He's been handling a ton, so he'll have all he can handle for pick and roll handle of stuff. And then
the close to 20 there, was that in reference to Aaron Holiday or Reed Shepard?
Shepard.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to make sure that we were clear on that.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So. And the thing I was going to lead with before this was my guy last year, not this year, because I was worried late in the preseason that Jabari Smith's minutes are in trouble because Tari Eason's coming, and I thought Ahmed Thompson's coming. Jabari's in trouble, man. His minutes are really going down. He's not playing well. He's shooting the ball like crap. We've got to start wondering if Tari Eason takes his starting job at this point. We'll see if that happens. And then Alfred Sengun's minutes were a little light. Was a little surprised he didn't come in late in this game. He was cooking the Pistons, and they waited a little bit. Was that because of back-to-back? It wasn't because of fouls. So a little bit unclear on why that happened, but should be good to go. Obviously, matchup doesn't get much better than the Wizards, who we'll go back to in a second here. But yeah. Fred, I don't know much detail on this one. It's just listed with a left hamstring without anything besides that. But yeah, hopefully it's just a back-to-back.
It's soreness. It's cut off because it's between two pages, but it's just soreness.
Oh, there you go.
Strain. Yeah, it's not strain or anything like that. Yeah, it's probably just precautionary. That back-to-back after he plays 37 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Sengun did not get the full minutes, but did close this game out in terms of like he was the guy who put this game away. And then Tari versus Jabari in terms of the starting stuff. I don't think Jabari's at risk of losing his starting role because I think with that unit they want more shooting out there, And so I think it might just be more of these types of minute splits that we see from the two, right? Like Jabari's still starting, but him like only getting into the 30s when he's actually shooting the ball effectively, right? And obviously not what you hope for from, the top pick in terms of Jabari Smith Jr. Okay, let's move to Washington on the other side of this. So Kyle Kuzma, not listed on the injury report. It appears he is back, unless that is a mistake on filing. Rashawn Holmes and Bub Carrington are both listed questionable here. Rashawn Holmes with a non-COVID illness. He hasn't really been a part of the rotation. Bub Carrington with right knee soreness. It was a knee injury that he suffered in the second half against Orlando. And then they're still without Vukovic, Malcolm Brogdon, and Sadiq Bey. What are your notes here on the Wizards tonight?
Yeah, surprise on Kuzma. We didn't really get much of an update besides he was out. So he's been out for, I'll have to get the date in a second. Call it 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so that was a surprise. Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise. And as you mentioned, Bub Carrington had some contact, helped off the floor a little bit, was limping, was down. And after the game, was still limping, kind of signing autographs in Orlando. So we thought he's going to miss. He gets the Q tag here. They're on a big road trip, so it's not like they're going to send him home. So it's probably a day-to-day thing. I think he sits just to be safe. But now with Kuzma in, I think they're going to start Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly at the 2, Keyshawn George at the 3, Kuzma at the 4, and then Alex Sarr at the 5, and then Valanciunas still having an okay role off the bench. This will take away the it'll still have Kispert in there. Marvin Bagley still sneaks in there for the core of the rotation. And then maybe it's Jared Butler sneaking in as the next man in. But now we don't need the Anthony Gill minutes. We don't need the Patrick Baldwin minutes and all that with Kuzma back. So, it's pretty much it. But big spread, 13.5-point spread, which probably got tighter now with Fred VanVleet out and Kuzma in.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. I'm just looking through the Wizards' schedule here, and the only spot that I thought that they would kind of matchup adjust and start Valanciunas was against Memphis because of Edey, but then Memphis didn't start Edey after Washington started Valanciunas. I'm looking back. I guess the Cleveland spot would have been another potential spot. Did they start? They started Sarr there.
Yeah.
Şengün is a big body. So that's the one thing I'm not sure on. I'm not sure that Sarr starts over Valanciunas, which would mean in that scenario that Keyshawn George would go to Sarr starting regardless. It's just whether he's starting at the 4 or at the 5. And I think with a matchup against Şengün, it's possible that they go to Jonas Valanciunas just to try to eat more of those minutes against Şengün than because Sarr is just giving up a huge size disparity there between the two. But yeah, we'll see. Kuzma should tighten things up as well in terms of just like, okay, now we have this starting 5 that you're seeing on the board here: Kuzma, Valanciunas, Kispert. That's 8, and like 8, competent NBA level players. Obviously, if Carrington's out, that would bring it back down to 7, and we'd see how things kind of take over there. If Carrington's out, they could also simply just shift everybody down positionally, make Keyshawn George basically a 2, make Poole a 1, make Kuzma a 3, Sarr a 4, Valanciunas a 5. I think that's very in play as well. But I think there's a couple different ways that Joe Val could start tonight is just kind of what I'm getting at. And I don't think it would necessarily hurt Sarr. I think it's Keyshawn George or Bub Carrington, depending on availability, that are most likely hurt there. If they didn't go the Valanciunas route and Carrington was out, Kispert would seem to be the guy that would make the most sense in that scenario. But they've seemed pretty content pigeonholing Kispert into this bench role this year, which is strange to me in so many different regards. It's strange to me in the fact that he fits better with the starting lineup because of his shooting. It's strange to me in the sense that they actually signed him and showed like a long-term commitment to him, but that's the way that they've gone about things. So yeah. And then Houston should also note, with Jock Landale out, with Steven Adams questionable, there's a couple paths that, so like their roster is basically like the backup is Jeff Green is the backup in case of emergency. If no Steven Adams tonight, he's like the backup 5, because I think without Fred VanVleet, there's fewer ways to play like the super small stuff that you love without getting really tight on the rotation in terms of the number of minutes. So I think Jeff Green makes an appearance tonight if Steven Adams is unable to go.
I'm pretty sure Adams is going to play. It's listed with a recovery. It's not he used to get double listed knee calf. Now it's just listed with knee, which is what he had surgery on that cost him last year. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be in for back-to-back.
Yep, and just sat yesterday because of the back-to-back, essentially. Yeah, that makes sense. But just noting that it's probably Jeff Green if he's not, and the smaller ball stuff is still in play. Just it's without Fred VanVleet, it's harder.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to condense those minutes. So if they do end up on the smaller ball stuff, and you see like Tari Eason playing center and different things like that, that it's probably not raising everybody else's minutes a bunch. It's probably that we're just getting more like Aaron Holiday in those situations. But this should be a good opportunity for both Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd, guys that we've been wanting to see more minutes from. So this is a good opportunity tonight for that. Okay. The other injury note that we got added with clarity on the 2:30 injury report was, as you alluded to, Oklahoma City Thunder, Kenrich Williams not listed on the injury report. What do you think do you think he's for sure playing tonight? Do you think what kind of minutes do you think he's absorbing? Like, what's your expectations for Kenrich Williams?
Yeah, so let's go back to details. I didn't think I'd need the details, but I looked them up anyways because I thought they might. Had knee scope on September the 19th. So that means, he's going on 2 months. Knee scopes are 6 to 8 weeks. So he's right on target. And as I mentioned, he's been doing rehab assignments since October 30th. So he's got 2 weeks here of ramp up and rehab. He's not playing 30 minutes. He might start. I mean, they might, hey, go, we're going to give you 18 minutes. Go get those 18 minutes and cut down the Zubats. So I want to say like 35% chance starting, maybe higher. Like he's definitely got a chance to start just because if you want to fill them, like you got to cover Zubats for 36 minutes. Like, why not ensure that you get the first start of the first quarter and the first start of the third quarter with the biggest guy on your team, at least rotation player? So, yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, 35% chance he starts, and I think he'll play. They'll have him targeted for probably like 17 minutes. I think that's where he'll be because we got like 16 minutes Dylan Jones, 20 minutes AJ Mitchell. We've got Leon's minutes in there. Like we need minutes, so I think Kenrich will be in there for a little bit.
Do you think, if it was Kenrich or if it was Yusman Jang or someone who's like more traditional big, do you think Alex Caruso is still starting in the spot that has been the rotation start this year? Or do you think that rotation spot continues to be a rotation spot between Wiggins, Cason Wallace, and Isaiah Joe?
I didn't thought about that. I think it's still going to be the other one. I think they'll bring Caruso off the bench then.
Okay.
Interesting. So yeah, I think it's either I think it's one of the Joe, Wiggins, Cason, and
you think it's two different buckets?
Yes,
two different buckets.
I think it's Caruso's. Yeah. It's Caruso or Kenrich. Like I said, probably 2-1 favorite for Caruso. And I think it's going to be. I think Wiggins makes way more sense now, just to give you a little bit more length on the wing.
Yep. Okay. Interesting.
Do you disagree?
I think I agree with you. Yeah. I'm trying to think through if their position would be to maximize Caruso minutes, simply because even though he's not the primary defender on the ball, he is going to be the thing that is trying to defend Zubats, even though he's not the guy on the ball doing it. They're going to have him on somebody in the corner, either Derrick Jones Jr. or Terrence Mann, and they're going to have him as the guy pinching down on all the pick and roll stuff to try to disrupt all that stuff. And so the question is, are they like, and also like, how comfortable are they like with Alex Caruso playing heavy minutes? I don't know. They haven't really played him more than like 24, 25. So all of those are unknowns to me. But if the line of thinking was, we need to have Caruso as the line of defense against Zubats as much as possible, then I could see a scenario where he's separate from those two buckets. I don't think we have enough evidence to suggest that that's the way that OKC will be thinking tonight about a single regular season game on a back-to-back. Okay.
45-minute show for spread games. What have we done?
Yeah, I mean, it's the usual. A lot of injury stuff with back-to-backs here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, wanted to shout out before we get into the promo stuff. Rex McCorrick with a super chat here, listening from Australia. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the kind words. I honestly don't know what you, Rex, and At the Dynasty are the first two people who have done this. We were not prepared for super chats or anything like that. We just want you to hit press, hold, gently caress that like button. That's all we're looking for. But appreciate you guys in this era of like taking care of the content providers that you enjoy and make your days better. Appreciate you guys sending those notes, sending financial compensation, however you feel like. Love it. Appreciate it. We just want you to hit the like button. That's the most important thing. But Rex, shout out to you. Thanks for listening today. As always, if you're interested in checking out our premium content on the DFS side, you can go to establishadrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details on our premium product offerings, including our props. Please, as always, read that FAQ if you're interested in the props package. It's very tough to get the bets that we're releasing. They move instantly. That's because the books know that we're very good at this and we can win at this. And we've done this for 3 years running. We continue to generate ROIs in the 14% year after year after year with the bets that we do release. So it's on subscribers to be able to find ways to get them. We still have enough subscribers that can do that we can generate a business. So it's worked for us. Make sure it works for you by reading that FAQ. It's just a weekly subscription if you're interested in checking it out. And if you find out very quickly that it doesn't work for you, you can always let us know. And we're willing to take care of things and do the right thing. On the DFS package side of things, Mike Gallagher's matchups column 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Live shows with myself and Mike 5 times a week. Projections for every game, every slate. We've got office hours this week with myself where you can ask any question related to DFS, and I'll walk you through my process and how to think through things. So lots of great content, a Discord that you can interact with a lot of established NBA DFS players who are playing every day and really in the streets. So a lot of great stuff on our DFS package. Check out all the information there. If you are only interested in joining us for the free ride, that is totally cool too. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the free ride. The best way that you can help us out, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We got over 5,000 subscribers last year. We're really proud of that. We're continuing to try to grow these social media platforms. You can check us out on IG as well, where our content team is starting to put stuff there on Establish the Run's NBA IG page. So we're trying to build this stuff out. We need your help to do it. Subscribe to this YouTube page. And of course, smash, press, gently caress that like button, which helps feed the algorithm, allows us to feed our families, and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, set your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.